It's hour 2 of Overdrive here on TSN 1050, up on TSN 4. I am Aaron Korolnek in for Brian Hayes, and we have a very special hour. Noodles has arrived. Jason Strudwick is here. It's a reunion of the 1995 Worcester Ice Cats. How we doing, boys?
Well, and he's already chirping in the group chat saying, don't stop for pop. How do you know that I stopped for a Pepsi on the way up?
I know. This guy, it doesn't matter if it's 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. Noodles has got that. And I know when you travel, Noodles, and be honest, what color was your neck pillow today? You wrap it around your neck.
I'm not one of those guys. I don't wear neck pillow. I'm not a lunatic on planes. No, you haven't. The last time you and I were together on a plane, the flight attendant had to come by and check on you because you had sweat right through your sweater. She literally was doing like a health check. It was like, sir, are you okay? And he was so – do you remember that, Struddy, leaving Vegas? You were so
Vegas.
parched.
Here we go.
Yeah, there was a health check done on him.
I was literally. I was so thirsty. I was drinking the hand sanitizer bottle you carry in your pocket.
It was ugly. It was ugly. But honestly, I do remember that. You were like in an aisle seat and you were pouring over into the aisle, and the lady came back and just said, sir, are you okay? Can I get you some water? Can I get you anything? Because we almost had to circle back and leave you there. It was awful.
A moist towelette to cool me down.
Is there anything like more different than the flight to Vegas versus the flight home from Vegas? I mean, they could not. You're so excited to go to Vegas, like, all right, this is it. And then when you're returning home, your entire soul has been sucked from you by that city. And then that's how Struddy ends up with the moist towelette on his head at the during the flight. I think that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, honestly, you're right. The attitude going down, people are dancing and singing and drinking. It doesn't matter what time, 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 at night, but it is a quiet flight home because people have left money, they've left their soul, they've left their dignity, you name it. They leave everything in Vegas, and it is a quiet flight home for sure.
So you guys are both Alberta boys, but did you make your first acquaintance with the Worcester Ice Cats? Is that where you guys first met, or you knew each other from before that?
No, I think it was at a hockey school I met Noodles. It was, I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was someone's hockey school. I remember one of our friends. Was it one of our friends? I'm sitting in the hockey school room. There's Noodles and then two other goalies and me. And one of our friends, he says to the other guy, says, there's more hair on a squirrel than on top of your head. And I remember thinking, I love these guys. It was within like 5 minutes. It was the funniest chirp I'd ever heard up to that point. The Noodles and these other guys kept going. I was like, I love these guys right away. Two goalies, pretty funny.
Yeah. We had a hockey school in St. Albert called Professional Preparation, PP, and Struddy shot pucks there. We had Jeff Sanderson show up when he was young and just out of the All-Star game, and had a few NHL players pop by, and you're right, my buddy Dale Masson, and we had a guy who ran it named Phil Huber. And Phil played pro with us, and Phil was slightly balding, and he was chirping us, and he was a little bit crabby, and Mace said to him, I've seen more hair on a squirrel. Beat it, Phil. And that's when things went south. And yes, that hockey school was good. Those kids loved us. They loved us. We were really good. But yeah, Struddy and I met then, and obviously, yes, we got to play together in Worcester, but you were drafted to the Islanders after me, a couple years after, correct?
Yeah, just a little bit after. I remember at the end of that year in Worcester, you still had your place in New York. He's like, why don't you come over? You can stay at my place. So I drive up to New York to stay with him. He didn't have any other bed. I had to sleep on a fake leather couch and no AC. I'm not kidding. I was sweating through the couch. It was so hot. And meanwhile, he had the AC set up in his room. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, no sheet, nothing.
No. Well, think about it. We're 21 years old. That might have been my first year in the NHL, and was living with my girlfriend at the time. Like, there was a lot of moving parts there, and you showed up, and you're right. We had a pleather couch because there was no leather back then. Like, it was just, and I think I paid for the whole set, like maybe $175 or something. You got
I believe
the chair, the table, you name it. I just left it there at the end of the season. I don't even think I moved it into storage. Storage would have cost more than the furniture we paid for. So yes, there was no AC in that nice townhouse, but there was a fan and AC in my room. But it didn't matter.
No fan in the main room had no fan. You wouldn't even let me open the window. They're like, we can't open the window. It's a dangerous area. So I just laid there and sweat.
Dangerous area.
Just sweating out.
You're living on Long Island. I mean, in Glen Cove, it was a nice area, but still, you never know who's going to crawl through the window. And we had to keep the windows closed. Plus, I don't like bugs.
As long as they left the window open, as long as they wiped my brow as they stole your stuff, I would have been fine with it.
That's gold, man. That is gold. So, Noodles, I'm not sure if you've seen the big news in Leafland since you've landed, but Bobby McMann has himself a 2-year contract extension worth $2.7 million, so $1.35 million AAV. Let's go to the phone lines now. Joining us on the Maple Toyota hotline, it's TSN Hockey Insider Darren Dreger. What's up, Dregs?
We don't have
I guess not.
He must be telling us
he's speechless after the McMahon contract.
How many statements before he says McMahon is now a favorite to win the Calder Trophy?
Is he eligible at age 27 to win the Calder? I don't know. Michael Bunting was a couple years ago. He was like 35 years old. So Bunting, I think, he was a rookie, was it last year or 2 years ago? And he had a great season riding shotgun with Marner and Matthews. I think he had 60 points. He had a great season. Local kid, Scarborough kid, and people were fired up to get him in Rookie of the Year. But even Matthews took a shot. He's like, it's his 7th year pro. Yes, it's his first year in the NHL, but I watched Bunting last night. Actually, I felt good for him because he's trying to find a home in Pittsburgh. But Bobby McMann is he's 27. At some point, they got to draw the line. Wasn't it the Russian player Makarov or something came over? Yeah, he's 45 years old because who knows with birth certificates, like they never had birth certificates coming over. Like Struddy, how many guys did you play with that you knew they lied about their age?
Oh, yeah. He was older than the Calder Trophy itself.
Exactly.
Oh, that's... so, Dregs is back, guys? All right. Darren Dreger, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here, boys. I'm here.
All right. What's up? Thank you for carving out some time for us. We appreciate it. What was your reaction to the Bobby McMann deal with the Leafs?
Shocked. No, I wasn't shocked. You know what? Like when Bobby McMann went on his torrid pace, what was that, like 2-3 weeks ago? I just, because of what I do, I reached out to the agent and I said, well, at what point do you engage here and you start talking contract? And he admitted at that point that there had been at least an initial conversation, and then I ran it by Brad Treliving. And, Brad is always sarcastic. We know this of him. And he wasn't, kind of kicking sand on Bobby McMann and the run that he was on, but he was like, all right, well, let's see how it plays out here. Like, there's no sense of urgency. So I was a bit surprised, to be fair, that they got the negotiation done as quickly as they did, but I think this is fair value by the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, Bobby McMann isn't 22, he's 27. So you know what you're getting, and if this is his absolute upside where he can generate the offense and play up or down in your lineup, then at the AAV for 2 years, I don't know you can miss with that, because again, we have to look forward to the salary cap being what it is, and the fact that Austin Matthews and William Nylander have basically destroyed next year's cap. So you're going to have lower level contracts to make sure you can ice an NHL lineup.
Dregs, I'm happy he got the deal, and you're right. But, I often wonder how they arrived at 1.35. Like, if they just said 2 years at $1 million, I don't know if he's, going, no, I'm not doing that. But I'm happy Tree gave him a little extra money there because, he gets some cost certainty. He gets a one-way contract. This is probably his first one-way contract at 27 years old. I keep thinking, and I have this comparison. I don't know how you guys feel, but, Mason Marchment was a little bit of, we'll call it a little bit of a later bloomer. Found a home now in Dallas, is making some good money. He's a top 6 player, has some bite to his game. And it's nice to hear these stories. A guy like McMann, do you think there may have been a marketplace for him if he decided to, be a UFA in the offseason? And maybe that's where the Leafs were like, you know what, let's just get him locked up. Let's find a number and move on, because it is cost certainty for him. Yeah. But also there might have been a marketplace for him based on, this half season that he's had so far.
Yeah, for sure there would have been a market. To what degree? How do you know? And that's what the negotiation is all about. Like, Bobby McMann sees the opportunity that he's had in the Toronto organization. He's had a level of success. Let's see how the rest of the season plays out. But he most definitely played himself into a bigger opportunity in the offseason financially. But there's no guarantee of that. And the guarantee you have is what's put in front of you. And you're right. I mean, you look at some of the misses historically, Marchment for Hagee. I mean, go down the list of the Toronto Maple Leafs players who aren't playing in Toronto. But that's part of the gamble. But I feel like, and I'm repeating myself a little bit here, when you look at Bobby McMann and how he's developed to this point, let's give Kyle Dubas and that scouting group some credit here. And Dubas tells a great story in how Bobby McMann has evolved into the player that he is today. And we really don't know what that is. Like, is he going to be a 10-goal guy? Could he be more than that? He's a big body. He's got some bottom 6 presence. There's no doubt about that. But what is a lower market team, a team that needs a salary cap bump, whatever, willing to pay when we get to free agency? And it's a lot more than the 1.35 that he's getting for the next 2 years. So I think there was a little bit of a give and take here, but a pretty good fit for a good guy who deserves his opportunity as well.
Two things, Dregs. Obviously, the Penguins are at a tough spot in their year. Another loss last night in overtime to the Sens. Are there going to be some kind of conversations about where this team's going with their 3 big stars? Yeah. And also, number 2, can you give me your address so I can send you some honey and tea to lubricate that voice?
Yes. I'll give you my address, but it's not just honey and tea. I need something with a little bit more octane than that. I know.
7.
Don't we all?
I sound like hot garbage, which is bizarre because I was sick last week, came through it, felt pretty good through the deadline, and then Sunday rolls around, and all of a sudden I, get hit by another bag of hammers. So whatever, I'm getting through it. I feel okay. I sound terrible. So, anytime you want to get off your wallet, Struddy, I'm all open for that. No question.
No, he's going to give you free tea and free honey from some complimentary place. Yeah. You're not getting anything out of that.
Just one nice tweet. Just have to tweet about it. It's a new company I started.
Yeah. The whole Crosby and Malkin and Letang saga in Pittsburgh, I mean, we're going to be talking about this certainly into the draft, unless Sid comes out at the end of the year and says, fellas, enough. I don't want to talk about this again. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to retire a Penguin unless they tell me otherwise. And I feel like that's the only card that Kyle Dubas has, and it's not even in his hand. It's in Crosby's hand, and likewise in Malkin. So, I don't know. I mean, when I watch Penguins play, and including last night, I still see the competitiveness. I see the game that Sid has, and I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon, maybe the next 3 years. But, if he wants to chase another Stanley Cup, then he's probably going to have to come out end of the year. And if he says, which I predict he will, you know what, I need some time away. I want to be with my family. I want to just kind of disconnect from where I am right now and make a decision at that point. All right, that's code speak for I just need to figure out how I can make this work where I can get out and chase another Stanley Cup. I'm not saying he's going to do that, but if we hear that, then that's an indication to me that we're going to have interesting stories ahead in Pittsburgh.
TSN Hockey insider Darren Dreger, our guest here on Overdrive. The Detroit Red Wings have lost 6 games in a row, Dregs. Ugly one last night as well. And this was such a good story all year long. We saw some trades they made in the offseason that really paid dividends. Their goaltending was really good. Things seem to be falling apart a little bit here. When you look at the wild card race in the East, and I guess you would have to include the Philadelphia Flyers in this as well, where do you see this all falling into place after Game 82?
Well, it's a good question. And with Detroit, I don't have an answer. But what I would say is when you look at teams around the NHL, and we just talked about Pittsburgh, who may be bracing for a retool, rebuild, if you want to go to that extreme, look at the Red Wings. How many years have they been fighting this and going through it? I mean, I think it's 7+ years. And, you know, they've done it the right way. It's just how hard it is to get to that next level. But the Red Wings have to be at that place where they've officially turned the corner. They nibbled this year, and it doesn't look like they've turned the corner yet. But I do look at Yzerman and company as being as proactive as they can be in the offseason. I just feel like it's a really cautionary flag for any team that actually embraces the idea of a rebuild. Teams talk about it, and normally you're talking about teams that are maybe in smaller markets. When you look at the Winnipeg Jets, I mean, the fact that they got Scheifele and Hellebuck to sign prior to the start of the year and took that heat off is exactly why, you know, they did what they did, in the sense that they would have looked at Detroit and said, well, we don't have 7-8 years to go through this process. So Detroit is an interesting story because I know Yzerman wants to be more aggressive than he's been able to be, but without diving into his future, I don't think that's going to be that easy in the offseason.
And Dregs, I'm not sure if you saw this, but on Twitter, I just checked it out, but there was some tempers overflowing in Detroit. I don't know if you guys saw in practice. It looked like there was a little bit of a dust up and stuff too. So, I mean, you know, these things happen, but I'm calling these Ottawa games, and there's a lot of frustration. And, you know, Struddy, we've been in these rooms where, you know, guys have a lot of pride. And if you're on a streak or you're struggling, you know, you're going to work extra hard in practice. You're going to try and hold each other accountable. I don't mind this type of stuff, this type of emotion, but, you know, the bigger picture is how does this translate, you know, down the stretch here where there are some teams that are really frustrated. You just pointed out Pittsburgh, Ottawa's got, you know, they're playing out the stretch. There's some teams here that are very frustrated, that had high expectations coming into the season, and they've really fallen short.
See, and I think this offseason is going to be more fascinating than others, mostly because of the big questions and the teams that are ready or feel like they need to be ready to turn that corner. You know, the Montreal Canadiens, that fan base has had enough of the renovation. They've had enough. So the pressure now is on management, and Ken Hughes, you know, is the development program of the Montreal Canadiens sound enough that they can nibble at a playoff spot or lock down a playoff spot in the East? Not sure, you know, but they need to figure that out. Obviously, the New Jersey Devils, I mean, we know that, you know, given the level of success and then how they backtrack and what Tom Fitzgerald might do in the offseason. Buffalo seems to be on a bit of an uptick now, but go down the list. I mean, there's a number of teams here that feel like they need to do something to elevate their programs, you know, in preparation for next year. And that makes for an exciting draft and a pretty good offseason, I think.
Darren Dreger with us here on Overdrive. So Bobby McMann has a contract extension, a 2-year deal worth $2.7 million, so 1.35 AAV. Dregs, the Maple Leafs have a couple other forwards who are UFAs at the end of the year in Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi. Are you aware of any contract discussions between either of those players with the Leafs at any point this season or maybe ongoing?
No, not officially. But, I mean, again, knowing Brad Treliving the way I do, I think it's a safe bet that he's at least initiated some level of conversation. But, you know, you're looking at two guys who are established players here, right? And why would they go into any sort of contract negotiation with the Toronto Maple Leafs unless it's a multi-term at an annual average salary that they're willing to even talk about or negotiate off of. And that's a tough one when you look at the salary cap woes of the Toronto Maple Leafs moving forward. I don't know how they can keep both, and I'm not sure they can afford to keep either. I can appreciate why there'd be an interest in both or either, but it feels a little bit early. And both those guys, again, are established enough that if they have a good run to the end of the season, why wouldn't they look at the unrestricted free agent market? And the sad part is that you're picking up and you're moving again, and you're going through a process that you're probably tired of. But the only thing the Maple Leafs could offer those two players right now is probably a shorter term and a lower annual average salary than what they can get on the open market.
Dregs, turn our eyes to the West here, and the Flames obviously shipped out a number of players over a little while, but did not move Jacob Markstrom. It's going to hurt without those D and, obviously some younger players up front. But do you think was it any kind of like non-seller's remorse about not moving him, seeing where kind of things are heading? They're losing 3 in a row here now, a pretty good market out of the playoffs.
Well, only in that goalie market, Scrudge, is going to get more complicated and more crowded in the off season, right? It was a deal that Calgary could have made for Jacob Markstrom with the New Jersey Devils going to be better in the off season. I can tell you that New Jersey's standpoint is zero chance. They're not going to offer more than they did. And now all of a sudden you throw Linus Ullmark into there officially. What about UC Saros? And go down the list of the goalies that are in play. But I can also understand, Calgary's position. They're on the outside of a playoff spot. It seemed unlikely, last Friday, but it was still possible. It's impossible, I think, without Markstrom in the mix. So it's crappy that Jacob Markstrom had to go through what he went through, but I wonder what lies ahead. And Markstrom's position on this is as intriguing as anything else. Like, if he gets to the end of the year with the Calgary Flames and says, okay, well, heads up, I'm not going to be back in Calgary, then it gets a bit more crusty, doesn't it? Because they have him under term. He's full property of the Calgary Flames. So that trade interest, if it's one team or two teams, gets probably less valuable than it was leading up to the deadline. So, yeah, unfortunately for Markstrom and the Calgary Flames, I think there could be tougher times ahead here.
Darren, thank you for doing this. Be on the lookout for that care package from Jason Strudwick, okay?
Okay. I appreciate it, boys. Have a good night.
All right, you too.
COD.
That is TSN Hockey Insider Darren Dreger, who joined us on the Maple Toyota hotline. Build your next dream Toyota at Maple Toyota and check out Maple Toyota's pre-owned inventory arriving daily. It is time to Toyota. Visit mapletoyota.com. Dregs does so many radio hits and TV hits. Like, if he gets sick, that's a multi-day endeavor where he's like, I have this Thursday regular hit in Winnipeg and this there. Wow. So he's a soldier. Yeah. He was battling today.
You're grinding through it, but he's not wrong. You got to see what's going to happen, because the offseason, I think, is going to be fascinating, because there's a lot of top-tier teams. Let's say, I don't know, we can go around the table. Do you think there's probably 8 to 10 contenders? Realistically, there's probably 10 teams that think that they can win the Stanley Cup this year.
Maybe more.
Maybe a bit more.
Maybe more, yeah.
Maybe, the whole narrative is, hey, we get in, look at what Florida did last year. The only thing I would say about Florida is they won the President's Trophy the year before. And look at what they're doing again this year. So Florida's not this, crazy outlier. What they did is they had a crappy regular season last year where they couldn't get a save from Bobrovsky. They had a bunch of injuries, and then they scraped their way into the playoffs, and their team got healthy. They got great goaltending, and they went on a run. But if you look at them, they won the President's Trophy the year before, and they're on their pathway to potentially winning it again. So, for people pointing out, you can just squeak into the playoffs and go on this steep run like Florida. Well, you didn't. The other teams talking about that didn't win President's Trophy. They haven't been this top-tier team for many years now. So I think there's 10 teams that can win the Stanley Cup. Only one's going to win, so there's 9 teams that are going to be disappointed. And if goaltending is a big factor of it, you might see a marketplace heat up for Ullmark. You might, for Markstrom, guys like that going, hey, we think we're a goalie away from doing something special. So be interesting to see what happens in this offseason.
I certainly will be. And I did see that Jake Allen revealed today in an interview in New Jersey that he actually declined a trade to New Jersey earlier this season. So they were trying to get him in earlier. Might have completely changed their fortunes had they got Jake Allen in there earlier with the New Jersey Devils. Some news in the NFL. The Tennessee Titans have signed Calvin Ridley to a 4-year, $92 million deal worth $50 million guaranteed as well. So, that is a mystery team. No one really thought the Titans were in on Ridley at all. It seemed like it was the Patriots or the Jaguars, but he is going to Tennessee on a very, very surprising move. Is that Bo Jackson in your background there, Struddy?
It is, yes.
Nice. Big Bo Jackson guy?
Huge. He was my idol growing up.
Nice.
Two-sport athlete. Just amazing. Still follow him on the Twitter.
Oh, there you go. All right, beautiful.
Really?
So we'll talk some NFL with Herm Edwards, maybe a Bo Jackson question included, get his thoughts on this Calvin Ridley deal. We have role play level of concern coming up here in hour 2 of Overdrive. You're watching on TSN 4, listening on TSN 1050.
You can never ask me to stop drinking. Do you understand?
I do. I really do.
All right, it's time for a role play level of concern here on Overdrive. It's brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice-cold beer is always dialed in for game time. Hustle into your local BP tonight. My collection of degenerate friends are currently just destroying pints on a patio down on King West right now, sending me pictures while they're watching this show. So shout out to those fellas. My level of concern for them and their hangovers tomorrow is Nick Cage. Extremely, extremely high. So you guys know how this game works. You play the role of a certain individual, and you need to determine just how much concern you have. Struddy, we're going to start with you. You are Connor McDavid. What is your level of concern that you have to win the Art Ross Trophy to also win the Hart Trophy?
If I'm Connor McDavid, I don't think I really care about either of those awards, if I'm being completely honest. He's won that. He's been there, done that. I think he's looking for the Stanley Cup. But if I have to answer the question, I do think that getting the Art Ross is going to help his push for the Hart, because you look at the guys in front of him are both having excellent seasons.
Yeah, McKinnon is 6 points up on Kucherov right now, 10 points up on McDavid, but McDavid does have 2 games in hand on both. So we'll see how it goes tonight, including a game for McDavid and the Oilers against the Washington Capitals. All right, Noodles, you are Joseph Woll. What is your level of concern that you don't have enough time remaining in the regular season to establish yourself as the starter for the Leafs in the postseason?
For me personally, it would be 6 beer and 2 shots of vodka. But in Leaf Nation, he can have a good week, and they'll already be like, "Hey, you've got the starter's job." So I still think. I mean, Samsonov's played well since he's come back. So there's a roadblock there. Now, Joseph Woll is a good young goaltender, and there is still runway. Because I'm joking, but there's still enough time where if he has, let's say he has a good month. A month is a good runway to show if you have 6-7 games where you feel good about yourself and you've gone back and forth with Samsonov. So I'm not Nick Cage. I'm not Rick Bushwood, which is, What's Rick Bushwood? Played for
Six Bush
Struddy.
Light, 6 Bud Light, and I love them, tall boys.
There you go.
Well, tall boys. That's a good afternoon right there.
So I'm not a pint on the patio, but I'm not overly concerned because I think Joseph Woll has a lot of runway here still, and he's a good young goalie.
Do you think Samsonov right now is the favorite to start game one? I would imagine the answer is yes, and there is recency bias attached to it, but Woll had a great run earlier in the season. I don't think we can just forget what happened to Samsonov in the middle of the year where, the guy was in the AHL. Nobody even claimed him on waivers. And, look at that, 12-3 record. You could see it on TSN4.
But that's what I'm saying. Say Joseph Woll goes 10-2 his last 12 starts, or, I don't know if he's going to get 12, but let's say he gets, he's 8-2 his last 10. Like, that looks pretty good heading into the playoffs. I think Samsonov right now, if it's game one of the playoffs, I think he gets a start, although wasn't it Woll both nights against Boston?
Yep, exactly. And
So
Samsonov
that
started the
kinda
game against Buffalo on the first half.
That kind of tells me, hey, let's see how Woll would hold up against Boston. But either that or it's Sheldon saying we're going to save Samsonov for Boston. We don't want any, them leaning into him and picking up some tendencies heading into it. So you might be a little bit of mind games there.
All right. I am a citizen of the United States of America. What is my level of concern if Aaron Rodgers eventually becomes the vice president of the United States? Now, if you missed this story yesterday, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is running as an independent and potentially may tap Aaron Rodgers as his VP candidate, which is very interesting. My level of concern is a pint on the patio because this will not be occurring. However, I will say, when you consider what American politics has become over the last couple of decades, this is just the perfect storyline, right? Rodgers and Kennedy Jr. campaigning all across America. You have Biden, you have Trump. I don't think it's going to happen, but man, would that be just the most entertaining product possible? And he does, the little part about playing in the National Football League for the New York Jets. That's also part of the equation too. Is there a way that Rodgers could handle both things at the same time? I don't know. That'd be something that I'd be curious to find out.
Do you think Jets fans want to find out? Like, if I'm a Jet fan, I'm pounding beers hearing this because that's a lot. I don't want him distracted. We had him for one throw last year. If I'm a Jets fan, we need him for the whole year. So I'm massively worried as a Jets fan.
No
doubt.
I'm Nick Cage if I'm a Jets fan, but I was thinking about it. You're right. Hasn't The Rock been talking about doing stuff like that? Arnold Schwarzenegger was a governor. I think he's still in politics. I'm not sure. He's older now. But, that type of stuff, like you do see the crossover. I could see Rodgers. I just don't think they would win. And It would be a mess because this guy, for some reason, he's crossed over into controversial. It feels like every couple of weeks, Aaron Rodgers got something on the go, and it's not the most positive things. If I'm a Jets fan, it's Nick Cage because you just want this guy to play football and take snaps. He took 4 snaps.
Four snaps.
That was it.
And imagine he's like, "Hey guys, I'm actually not coming back this year. I'm going to be on the road, traveling and campaigning for a vice presidency, which I have virtually no chance of actually winning." All right, Struddy, you are the Tampa Bay Lightning. What is your level of concern that you will be a one and done when the playoffs arrive, even if you make the playoffs, that is?
Yeah, this is going to be a non-drink special, 3 China Whites. I'm pretty... it's like we're not ruining my night, but I've definitely got to get a buzz on to get through this. It's a challenge because, they've had an amazing run. And now they've had to move players out over time just because of the salary cap issues. And now they're not at the top anymore. They're somewhere towards the middle of the bottom. So I am worried about that. And then I guess the question is, let's say they are one and done, how do you rebound from that? How do you get out of that potential kind of just way it goes, one and in and out, and that's a little bit scary. So I think you're looking not just this year, but you're looking down the road, and how do you get back up to where you were for many, many years as a great team in the league?
Well, it's a cycle, and they've got decisions to make. They might even do the old Vegas. Vegas just cuts bait with people because Steven Stamkos, been no conversations.
Zero.
It's like we'll see. He's a captain, one of the greatest Tampa Bay Lightning players of all time. And they're letting this guy twist in the wind. Now, I'm sure there's things behind the scenes that we're not privy to. but they're probably saying, like, let's see how this season plays out. And, if it doesn't go well, if they miss the playoffs, if they're one and done in the first round and get rinsed, I would think they would have to retool on the fly. And if they walk from Stamkos, man, there'd be a lineup for him, even though how old is he? I don't have my.
He would be maybe 32, 32 in that range.
He's kind of in that Tavares range type of thing. So, I mean, he's a hell of a player, but there's decisions to be made. The other side of it, though, is Vasilevsky hasn't had a great season since coming back from the back surgery, but he's still Vasilevsky. He can turn the clock back. You ask him to give me 2 weeks of play. That guy can do it. He's scary.
Yeah, and if I'm the Panthers or the Rangers and I'm looking at potential first-round playoff matchups, maybe the Islanders, the Red Wings, the Flyers, the team I would have very little interest in running up against would be the Tampa Bay Lightning. We know the pedigree, and probably most importantly, we know Vasilevsky's a guy who has done some serious work in the Stanley Cup playoffs in past years. All right, Noodles, you are the Detroit Red Wings. What is your level of concern that you will miss the playoffs after losing 6 straight and watching the Islanders jump you?
I'm going to be Rick Bushwood. I don't think it's Cage.
6 Busch Light, 6 Bud Light, and I love them, tall boys.
Okay, so because I think it's pretty darn close to Nick Cage because you lost 6 in a row. You got absolutely dummied last night. Like I was watching, so I was calling that Pittsburgh game, but I'm watching on my phone going, what is going on there? It was 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, like, and now you're fighting in practice. Like, to me, they're unraveling at the seams. They've got to find something to galvanize, stop the bleeding. But I am concerned because there was a time they were on the heels of the Leafs. Now they're not anymore. That ship has sailed. Now they're trying to make the playoffs. And Patrick Waugh's Islanders are on fire. And I saw Mike Kelly tweeting about it from Sportlogic with the underlying numbers. Apparently, Patrick Waugh's underlying numbers since he's taken over are top 5 in the league as far as possession, goal scoring, all of that type of stuff. So the Islanders are a force to be reckoned with right now, and Detroit's heading the wrong way.
Yeah, and I even see Washington, who have a couple of games on hand on Detroit. They're 3 points behind the Wings, and Washington has a big game tonight in Edmonton, so they're going to need to really keep the pedal to the metal if they want to stay in this wild card race. All right, I am the New York Yankees. What is my level of concern that I'm no longer a World Series contender with Garrett Cole expected to miss up to 2 months? Give me the Rick Bushwood, fellas.
6 Busch Light, 6 Bud Light, and I love them, tall boys.
Garrett Cole is a monster. Jerry Cole, as he's known on this radio program, the reigning Cy Young winner in the American League, a guy who takes the ball every 5th day and throws gas. And if he's out for up to 2 months, who knows? He's got a meeting with this sore UCL going on with one of the renowned elbow experts in the United States of America. That's a major concern for the Yanks. And sure, they could go out in theory and sign one of those pitchers who remain without contracts, like Snell, like Montgomery, but those guys are not going to replicate the type of production that Jerry Cole has. So big time concern for the Yanks.
Yeah, I'm Nick Cage with it.
Nick Cage, you can make an argument for that too.
But everyone else in that division should be just partying, right? Just crack out the punch bowl. Let's have a good one because that's a big guy out of their lineup, right? And that should, this could be a big deal and a shifter in that AL East.
Struddy, can we go back to a China White? What type of drink is that?
Delicious. It's just
what? I got to circle back on that. What is the composition of a China White?
Well, I don't know how you.
Isn't it Kahlua and vodka?
No koala. Sorry. Basically, it's just greatness in a bowl. But what you do is you put the topper is the nutmeg. A classy place when they put a little nutmeg on top. I think it's like crema cacao and then like a little Bailey's and then nutmeg. A little bit. You got to have the nutmeg on top. And that's just absolutely, it's really good. It's my favorite drink. I still drink them.
You drink China White. So you would roll into a bar and order a China White.
That's right.
And what type of looks do you get from the bartender?
Well, not
he's
the most
lucky that
positive.
he's so big. He's lucky he's so big. He'd have to fight his way out of every bar. Where you lean over. We're all ordering whiskey or vodka, and this guy's got his hand up.
Whites.
And it's a milk product too.
That's right.
It sits there and gurgles in your stomach. It's disgusting. And I've had a few with you. I mean, back in the day. We've got to look up the ingredients.
All right, so we got the ingredients: vodka, cream, and what was the last one, JP?
Vodka, Irish cream, and creme de cacao.
That's what I said. Creme de cacao.
And some nutmeg. Don't forget about the nutmeg.
Don't forget the nutmeg.
It's disgusting.
You're disrespecting the drink.
The nutmeg. Oh, that is cool.
It's disgusting. It's so disgusting.
And I'll tell you what it does also. If maybe you've had a little bit too much garlic for dinner, freshens the breath. Brings it back up to a respectable level.
And if you're lactose intolerant, you're Harry Dunn on the toilet
You're done.
too. Because
You are done.
It is just. And if you've had, this is the problem. You're having a good night. You're drinking vodka 7 lime juice or whatever. Remember those? We used to drink the vodka slimes. They were called. They were $1 a drink. And then all of a sudden the China Whites come over and it's just gurgling in your stomach. And it's like eating a sandwich. It's literally like eating a shot sandwich, and it just sits there like a brick in your stomach.
I disagree. So I have it. When I'm in a bar, I don't go out often, but I get stopped and someone says, I bought you a China White. I'm like, I don't mind if I do. And I just pound it, and down she goes. It's so good. It's so refreshing. I have no problem. I've got the stomach of a goat.
This weekend, I have a firm commitment to you two that I will be having a China White somewhere. Maybe I'll concoct one in my condo. That could be something, but I got to give that a go. All right, Role Play Level of Concern was brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar, soon serving China Whites. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice-cold beer is always dialed in for game time. Hustle into your local BP tonight. We'll talk to the coach, Herm Edwards, in about 15 minutes. Mark Masters, our Maple Leafs reporter here at TSN, will join us as well. Bobby McMann has a 2-year contract extension with the Maple Leafs. We'll get to that. Korolnek, McLennan, and Strudwick here on this Wednesday afternoon. This is OverDrive, TSN 4, TSN 1050. Hour 2 of OverDrive continues here on TSN 1050, up on TSN 4. We'll be up on TSN 2 for the third and final hour. Aaron Korolnek, Jamie Noodles McLennan, and Jason Strudwick with you until 7 o'clock. Big Raptors game tonight. They're in Detroit to play the Pistons. Raps are 4.5-point underdogs on FanDuel against a team that lost 28 games in a row earlier this season.
Not good.
That is the current state of the Toronto Raptors. Still listen and still watch. We encourage you to do both because there's a little rivalry budding between the Raps and the Pistons, right? Because it was the Raptors that ended the streak of this 28 losses in a row, right? So maybe the Raps are a little bit pissed off after being, the biggest joke in the NBA for a couple of days, but I don't know, the way that the season is trending for the Raps, it seems like it's more of a tank mode where they're sitting out guys quickly, and Barrett won't play tonight, and Pirtle and Barnes are out, so it's pretty ugly for the Raptors right now.
It's the worst. Like, honestly, I'm concerned about it. Like I'm like, you're trying to tune in, and then as a casual fan, you're like, okay, I need some of the names here. It's guys that are getting, minutes. And that's when you need a program and you're Googling going, okay, I'm not sure who that guy is. Haven't seen that person before. Like that, you're in the dog days of the season. Like, I don't know if they've thrown the towel in, but it's pretty close. But I would like to support them. And you know what? I think it'll be a good game tonight. You're right. Detroit Raptors. It's kind of,
Gritty cities going head to head.
Exactly, gritty. It's
going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to it. Go ahead, Struddy.
Yeah, it's not like you're at the end of the world, but you can see it from where the Raptors are right now. With the number of players they're missing out. But the talk is still around trying to build these young guys and giving minutes to guys that normally get it, and a lot of building up. But it just feels like it's playing out the string. Right, that's what it feels like for the Raptors, and hoping that things kind of get a little bit better in the summer and they get healthy, and then get back at it next year with Scotty Barnes and his buddies.
On a positive note, we announce a current or former Maple Leaf player every day of the week here on OverDrive. And on Friday, you'll have the chance to call in and name all 5 players in the lineup. Name them all, and you'll win a pair of tickets to see the Leafs and the Oilers on March the 23rd. Struddy, will you be making maybe a trip into Toronto for that one?
I might have to. I might have to take a look.
You could stay at my place. We can have some China Whites together. You can sleep on my fake leather couch.
At least give me a sheet.
Got air conditioning.
I do have air conditioning too, so you'll be in luck. We're also throwing in a $250 Vanilla Visa prepaid card. Vanilla Visa prepaid cards are available for purchase at Petro Canada. Today's Leafs lineup player is Aki Berg. Aki Berg.
Crowd favorite.
The arch nemesis is of my friend Carlo Koliakovo, who I believe kind of had his job taken kind of in his early part of his Maple Leaf career by Aki Berg. And I'm sure you guys also have players like that who maybe you thought were better, but somehow got opportunities over you. Now, I'm not asking you to name those certain individuals unless you'd like to, but I'm sure you can empathize with my man Carlo.
Wow. I mean, think about Aki Berg. Didn't they run him out of town here, AK? They literally ran him out of town, drove him to the airport. Like there were people that just drove him to the airport. So get the hell out of here. I thought he was a pretty decent player, but you talk to Leaf fans, man, there is a sore spot about Aki Berg.
But it's like one in the many, many long line of defense who have been run out of this city, right? Like Jake Gardner and Larry Murphy, if you want to go back further, Justin Hall. Mike Komisarek. We could spend an hour talking about Leafs defensemen who've been run out of town, and I guess when you consider Aki Berg in that list of that lineage, I suppose, very much would qualify for sure. We'll talk to Mark Masters coming up at 6:30, our Maple Leafs reporter. Again, Bobby McMann. He has a new contract. The Leafs have a game against the Philadelphia Flyers tomorrow night. You could watch that on TSN4. We also have the coach, Herm Edwards. We'll talk about the big deal for Calvin Ridley with the Tennessee Titans. Who saw that coming? That and more in Hour 3 of Overdrive next.